Hello, everyone. Welcome to ePBS Breakout Room Call 25. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Pooja. I'll restart. Hi, everyone. Welcome to ePBS Breakout Call 25. Lots of stuff to talk about today, so let's jump right in. I'll quickly go over some of or just like mention that there are some open PRs that we should probably try to get merged soon. A couple of testing PRs and a PR from NC. I can discuss that with POTUS and NC later. And then there are two to-do items for anyone that wants to pick those up. So just removing some tests which are no longer relevant in gloss and adding some asserts that were missing that Terrence pointed out. There haven't really been that much spec work this week, just one small PR merged. I'm guessing client teams are very busy working on their implementations. And then let's talk on that. Anyone from Prism available to give us a status update on their implementation for DevNet 0?
So we have a bunch of open PRs, and we're not gonna merge them until we have a stable Fusaka release, which is out, should be on schedule today. So which means we want to see how it goes over the weekend, and on Monday we can start merging them. In terms of open PR, we have implemented most of them, actually everything in the beacon chain.md. Nothing else on validator for choice and P2P side, just the beacon chain MD. And they are all passing spec tests. So that's good. Basically the existing spec test that we have. And I guess maybe like that's the update, but I would like to hear from other client team, like what other spec tests are you guys passing today? Because I'm passing everything in EPUB processing, SSE static, and block operation. I'm wondering if there's something else that I can be passing, which I am not trying today. So yeah, I'm curious to see what other spec tests people are passing.
Stefan, I think you mentioned that TechU was passing like a lot of other tests. Is there anything else that they should be testing?
Yeah, I think we passed all the reference tests apart from sort choice. Yeah, all the operations like block processing, execution failure processing, the bit processing. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything that's doing.
Okay, I will give those a try.
Yeah, there's not much else.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before we move on to the other client, Terrence, how are you feeling about end of October DevNet 0 launch? Does this feel unrealistic to you?
I feel it's a little rush. I mean, like, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's just rush because, yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess we have a few more weeks. All right, let's move on to the next client. Is there anyone here from Lighthouse who can give an update? I'm scanning the member list. I don't see anyone. Okay, let's move on to TechU then. Anyone from TechU willing to give a status implementation update?
Yeah, sure, I can give it. Yeah, we haven't done that much work apart from passing reference tests. Just a little bit of plumbing here and there. Yeah, not that much on a day. But yeah, I think over the next few weeks, I mean, our work would be easier given that we've done plumbing, make things easier. But nothing major for now.
And how are you feeling about the end of October artificial deadline?
I don't feel it's too realistic, but yeah, let's say again in a couple of weeks. I'm not very confident in order.
Okay, thank you. OnScar says end of October might be nice to not get into DevConnect related rush. Not sure how many people here will be attending DevConnect. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. POTUS, what's up?
I think it's kind of hard to think about end of October, given that ACD decided that we're going to make a decision on whether to split or not the CIP. by October, like a week from now. So that means that we can't really realistically merge anything on our main branches if we need to like splitting this thing is not that it's just removing part of code. It means changing it completely. So it's kind of crazy to start to merge things when there's no decision that is going to be made until a week from now, which is already going to be about like 17th of October.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, we can discuss that more, I guess, after the trustless payments discussion. Is there anyone here from Nimbus that's willing to give an update? I don't think I see Ignish or Tursek. Lodestar, Nico?
We have some work in progress on the state transition code. I don't think it's passing reference tests yet, but we are at least passing SSC static tests, but that's about it.
Okay. Thank you. And lastly, Grandine, Solius, can you give us a status update?
Yes, so we started to work on that. However, I think we are still far from a relatively solid implementation that could interop with others. So yeah, we started to work on that, and also there is Subhasish from fellowship program, which I think he is on the chat. He maybe can give some update on the things that he did.
Yeah, so majorly, I think there are open PRs on peer-to-peer interface areas. So I think this PR on the newer topic support on the libp2p side, and the block production code is sort of ready, but it's not yet passing tests, I guess, all the tests. And we are having some discussions around fork choice. We're having some actual code, I think, around end of next week, I guess. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Cool. Thank you for the update. And then let's jump back to Lighthouse. Shane?
Yeah, my end, I did a lot of these stuff around PTP, like getting payloads by range. But the stuff in the validator client, they'd isolated over there. So just to be able to request, like, from a self-editing perspective, a block and be able to send it back, and also for teaching out blue, request and send back as well. And we haven't started on anything related to testing. A big effort we want to handle is separation of payload processing. It's going to be like a pretty good refactor for us, and I think that's going to take some time. But yeah, that's our update for now.
Great, thank you. Anything else that clients would like to discuss regarding implementations for DevNet 0 before we move on to the next topic, such as blockers, concerns, anything like that? Yep, Otis.
There's a request from someone from Grandin on Discord now, and I've seen this request before, I think probably from Stefan, which is about adding the slot to the sidecars. Even though it's not necessary, it might be good for implementers. And the problem of not deciding on this is that this changes SSZ tests. I'm not sure how bad is it to add this later or to add it now. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we need to make a decision about this today, or if we need to or if we can delay that decision for longer. But this is going to bite us eventually.
Stefan, do you have any updates on this? Like, have you determined whether or not it's necessary to have?
Yeah, I saw the comment from Grandin, and yeah, it's exactly the same thing that we have in our code. So yeah, if we don't have that, then any data column sidecars wouldn't be received in RPC. I mean, we'll get an exception unless we refactor it for them, I think.
Okay. And Solius, do you agree with that? Or
Yeah, so my suggestion would be to add this slot number and forget this issue. I mean, I really don't see why we cannot add this. So we would save a huge refactoring, huge changes in the client by bringing back this slot number.
would you argue that we should do this sort of like retroactively so that this would be the spec for DevNet 0?
We are not sure that we will be able to participate in DevNet 0, but I mean, for us, it would be better if we do that as soon as possible. So, I mean, it seems that the option would be to add it later after DevNet 0. Is it correct?
I believe that is an option. POTUS?
So this is just a bureaucratic statement for me. I completely agree that adding the slot is fine, and it might help us. It might help Prism as well. But so the issue is about like which release to target for DevNet 0. I like it better that we've already frozen that the spec release so that we can actually aim for that. And a way of like making safe is that we are anyways going to try to attack DevNet 0 without any blobs. So I suspect that it doesn't matter if we include it or not for the DevNet. It's going to be the same because we are targeting not having any blobs for the DevNet in any case. So if that's the case, then we can add it, but then not include it in the release that is considered for DevNet 0. Now, if there's no problem in adding it now and changing the test and then changing everything, let's go ahead and add it. It's not a problem to add it. There's not even an assert on the slot. If we add it, we're going to have to add an assert that the beacon block root corresponds to a block for that slot.
Okay. I like this plan. If I understood it correctly, we keep DevNet 0 specs the same as they are now. There would be no blobs for DevNet 0. We make a PR to add slot to data column sidecar, and then we would do that for like DevNet 1 or something, right? Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. So yeah, let's make a PR for that and we'll get it merged. Anything else? Any other concerns? Okay, let's move on to the next section then. Trusted payments, or trusted or trustless payments. Len, would you like to get us started on this?
Yeah, sure. So I already talked to my points last ACDC, but I think there's like three things that we should kind of decide upon. Like one is like, should we have trustless payments in the current EIP in the first place? Can we split? And yeah, I've asked some people in the ecosystem to join this call too, if they have any points they want to raise. Yeah, the second point is that if we're going to have it, like, what does it look like? I think, Plotas, you were mentioning some doubts around the current design, that it can be simplified. Like, what's the exact, if we're going to have it, like, what does it look like? And the third point is, like, I think we all agree that we should have off-protocol bids to be supported. Like, what does that look like? How should it be standardized? I think Terence, you already started some write-ups. Thanks for that. I think that kind of things is to be discussed. And for the first point, like the only point that I want to reiterate here is that I think we're kind of underestimating the coordination complexity that arises from this. Like, how do we get it right? Especially if we're like having doubts around the design at this point. Like, how do we be sure that everyone's happy around it? How do we involve them? Like, for example, like in this call, I've asked some people to join, but we'll probably have to keep on doing that if we want to get it right. And the coordination, like, because I guess you guys also want a lot of things to do in the implementation side. We don't want to hijack this call too much. So that kind of coordination and is required. And I think it's kind of underestimated so far. But yeah, if we're going to do it, we should do it right. So like we need to be sure that everyone's happy. So that's my only point that I wanted to add there. If anyone wants to talk about their point on any of these points, I'll just yeah, feel free to speak up or yeah.
POTUS or Terrence or anyone that wants to talk. What are your opinions?
I've made clear my point here. It's one thing is to argue for trusted payments, which the EIP already considers. The EIP already allows for this, and we have very good designs for this. So we do have trusted payments of protocol. I mean, trusted payments. We do have that. We do have support for that. That was very clear even from the beginning. Now, removing trustless payments, that's a very different story, and I haven't seen a single argument for it. Now, if we are going to go that route of removing trustless payments, I think we need to analyze practically what are our options. To remove trustless payments, we need to decide how we're going to do this, because it's still not trivial. By removing trustless payments, how the signing is going to happen. The builders will still need to be staked because someone needs to sign them. If the builders are not staked, then we need to redesign how MedBoost is going to work, how many back and forth are going to be happening. I mean, the whole specification needs to be done if we actually need to if we want to remove the staked builders from the picture. So I think people are just separating, not separating, but like they are putting in the same bag trustless payments with staked builders, and they are different. The stake building is used for the separation of the payload with the bid. So if we keep stake builders, then it's very simple. If we don't keep them, well, I want to see a design. I want to see a specification. I want to see a EIP. I want to see the whole thing, the whole package. Like, hand-waving our ways around how the design of the EIP will be is one thing. The other thing is actually writing the specs.
Ansgar?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I mean, I think these are fair concerns by POTUS. I think that in principle, so here's the case, that somewhat uninformed case. I must be clear. I haven't written an alternative spec or even like have looked very, very closely into what it would look like. Again, what I'm thinking of is really just like, yeah, get a version of a base version of ePBS that would be without unconditional payments and without stake builders. But again, POTUS is raising concerns that might not actually be so easy to facilitate. So that point taken. The reason why I personally would like to see, in a way, base ePBS in just that raw form is that I still think we should then discuss, do we want this package of stake builders, unconditional payments, and in what form in Amsterdam? But I feel like that should go through more the general EIP process, because, and here's my argument basically, like the reason why I would at least want to consider not having it in Amsterdam at all is that I feel like it adds extra implementation complexity just compared to today, right? Like just this entire CL side builder balance, builder staking mechanism is just pretty novel, and so there's significant extra overhead. And I personally think that we are already at the point where ePBS is going to probably be the biggest chunk of, or the biggest feature in Amsterdam, and so it will take the longest time. If we really want to add more things on the CL side, I personally would rather spend our little remaining room basically on something like Fossil than stake builders, unconditional payments. But at least the point being is, I feel like that kind of conversation, even if we end up deciding to basically go with unconditional payments, I would much rather have that just as part of the normal EIP discussion process, rather than basically having it baked in with ePBS. But again, all of this is just assuming that we can come up very quickly with a spec that removes these elements and that actually then does look significantly simpler. If it's not simpler to remove, then all of these arguments are moot.
POTUS, would you like to respond?
Not really.
Yeah,
It's already in the chat. I mean, we've gone over this for like 2 years. When people actually went through the headliners for the fork already knew what it was. This issue of trustless payments or not is raised now after after a while, not because of complexity on the protocol, but because of the need to have trusted payments. This has nothing to do with the extra complexity that comes from having the mechanism to actually be paid in a trustless manner. The staking of the builders and all of this is already part of the separation of the payload and the block. And now it's sort of like seems that people are trying to backdoor a way into like removing the whole discussion that we already had on SED and choosing an SFI EIP. Find this kind of weird. I mean, the argument is we want trusted payments. Okay, fine. We already have this. And then we're going to use that argument to remove an SFI, change completely, and gut the whole EIP.
So, yeah, like I do see that it's like really late in the process and all that. But my impression is that like the whole SFI was more around, like it was advertised as a pipelining solution. And like a lot of discussion was around that. Like, should we do the latest
Yeah, and
execution?
state
Should we
builders
do...
was a solution to
Yeah.
pipelining. That state
So,
builders
okay,
was a way
actually,
of pipelining.
That's one question I had. So you think that stake builders is a requirement for pipelining, is that correct?
In this EIP, yes.
But like in principle?
In principle, no. I haven't seen a single design. This EIP was specified 2 years ago.
Yes.
And now people are arguing that, no, we don't want to have this because there's no philosophical, there's no proof, there's no theorem that we need to have stake builders, but people are not coming up with a spec. And after we specified an EIP, people are trying to come up with yet another design. We've already debunked many of them. And since Berlin, I had to analyze a new one every week. At some point, this has to stop, people.
Yeah. Really see your like concerns around that, but like, is it not as simple as just committed to a header at like the attestation time and that's it? Like you just leave everything off protocol.
No,
But of course,
it's
the off
not,
protocol.
and I can argue this here, but I think it doesn't belong in this meeting. But it's not because if you commit to a header, who's gonna sign it? You cannot just have a BLS signature from someone that is random. That's a DOS. So you do need to have a BLS signature from someone that is already in the state. So someone that you already know it's BLS signature so that you validate the signature. And to have this, you need to put it in the state, and to put it in the state, then it needs to be staked, at least 1 ETH or something, so that it's not a DOS on the beacon state. We've already gone over all of these things, and people have tried to come up with designs, and they are reinventing the wheel because they're coming late to a discussion of problems that we've already tried to solve 2 years ago.
So it's not like, I was thinking that.
And we documented all of this, by the way, very well documented over 2 years ago.
So it doesn't work if the signer is a proposer, like as we have right now.
It would work if the signer is a proposer, but then you need to redesign the whole mechanism of MedBoost to actually have the builder protected from unbundling.
Okay, see. Yeah, that's probably the part I'm getting, but yes, it's not. We discuss separately. Yeah, Scar, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say we should just split the conversation into 2 separate concerns. One is the spec, like as Put is saying, like is this even viable? Yes or no? The other concern is the governance process. I actually am somewhat agnostic on the spec side. Photos might be right. I still don't quite understand why, but at the same time, obviously, Photos is much, much, much deeper in this. On the governance side, though, I think I disagree with you, Photos, because yes, obviously, it's not ideal to basically after accepting it, kind of changing demanding quote unquote to change. I don't think it's a demand, just ask to change the scope a bit. I think it's coming from this place that I also went back. I read the justifications from all the client teams that supported ePBS when we had this roundup of who's in favor, who's not in favor for the headliner. And I have to look at this again, but it's out of the 10 clients, basically, it was 6-7 clients explicitly saying that their motivation is coming from scaling, for scaling reasons primarily, and then 2 clients just not specifying explicitly. So it's very much basically the mandate for the headliner is using ePBS for scaling, and then unconditional payments and the state builder and whatnot, unless it's again necessary for the spec, which is your argument, but that's a separate argument from the governance process point of view. It's basically just like an additional like staking related feature, like an additional like build up like basically like Ethereum improvement feature, but then it should just be a non-headliner EIP to express that. That's kind of so governance wise, I think I disagree with you. Spec wise, I think it's possible you're right.
Totus.
Once more, two things. The trustless payments has very little addition to the spec from the scaling EIP. The scaling EIP already has an in-protocol signer, which is the builder. It already has the separation, the payload, the 4 choice changes. It already has essentially everything. The trustless payments addition originally actually was incredibly simple. It was just a balance change on the validators. It got slightly more complicated because Lido requested it, but that's it. So it's the trustless payments part is a minor thing. What clients voted for, which was the scaling EIP, already includes the in-protocol builder that is already acknowledged in the beacon state. This is regardless of trustless payment or not. This is what we need for the pipelining. And this was already in the EIP. The people that voted for this already knew that it was in the EIP for this. Second, we are going to continue using this argument that this EIP is more complicated and we should delay it because, or even take it out of Amsterdam because it's going to be the one that is going to delay it. And yes, of course, it's going to delay it if we keep arguing and we keep discussing whether or not this EIP should even be included. I mean, after SFIing it, after all of what we've gone, now we want to go back, put it back on the discussion whether or not we're going to include it or not. And yes, of course, we're not going to merge anything and we are going to delay. Of course, clearly we're going to delay. So I find it fascinating that these kind of things are happening. And I find it fascinating by people that haven't even read the spec to not realize that trusted payments were already covered, that trustless payments have very little to do in this picture with the builder being staked or not. Trustless payments only adds one of these builders withdrawals and one of these pending payments. If we went with balance transfers, we could just remove some of them. But that's it. It's just a minor thing compared to the actual EIP.
Right. So I guess I'll chime in a few points, just like from reading the situation from the last few months. I think in general, we're looking at these two designs, right? We're comparing our ePBS with this base version of ePBS, which people claim to be simpler. But I think that's the wrong way to look at this. I think it's basically our ePBS and another version of ePBS, which is not like a base version of ePBS. Because when you remove like this, like the trustless payment and pending queue and stuff, it becomes a totally different design, which we frankly don't have it vetted thoroughly yet, right? So I don't think we can definitely ship that in Amsterdam like within like mid-year of 2026, just because of it's just so early to switch the design. So I think I would encourage people to look at this like a ePBS version 1 versus ePBS version 2, but not like a base version of ePBS because it's completely different. I think the other thing that like our current design also support both like trusted and trustless payments, right? The only difference is that like the builders needs to be staked, which surprisingly we talked to builders over the years and they all seem okay with it. So I would love to see more feedback from the builder side on like basically I would like to see them come out and to hear them say like they're not okay with this, because yeah, I'm surprised to hear this one.
Lorenzo.
Hey, just I guess we don't want to comment necessarily on the spec because I think that would be outside kind of my realm. But let's say specifically on the state builders, I do think that it's quite a change. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be, too disruptive or it's going to destroy the market, but I do think it's quite a change. So we wrote an article on this and how that might affect, let's say, builder competition, relay competition. And in general, I think there is a large, let's say, off-protocol market currently that's responsible for some 95% of the blocks on Ethereum. And I think that sometimes maybe this market is not as, let's say, taken into account when making protocol changes. So I think it's just I guess a point.
Lorenzo, when you said quite a change, I assume that this is what you guys wrote, explaining that the capital efficiency and like keeping track of depositing and payments on the CL, that would be quite complicated, right?
Yeah, for example, yeah.
Okay, which has, and also there's this issue of like the risk that a builder would be taking by like putting up a bid, a very large bid, and they paying it up front if they for some reason the payload doesn't get included, right?
Yeah, or just having enough balance to bid for blocks on the
Perfect.
on
So
the bid campaign.
so again, all of this, it's gone with just paying off protocol, which might even be the default, for example, for Lido validators. And again, I want to stress this because it seems to me that people don't have this clear here. If I am a node operator and I just whitelist and say, I want to take a bid from Titan, and I don't care if it doesn't pay me, this is already allowed today. And the builder and the proposer would actually get the bid. Titan will sign it. We still need Titan to be staked. We'll sign it. And we're going to get the payment in exactly the same way that we get it today. On the EL side, on the address that we're specifying in the same way on the Builder API. No changes are going to be on the side from Titan, nor on the side of the proposer that is receiving this payment. So I don't see how this could be invasive, nor very a big change from the point of view of Titan, except the fact that you need to be staked. That's 32 ETH. There's not going to be balance changes because you're only going to be beating off protocol if you want to go that route. And that's it. No changes on any of the logistics, no changes on any on the risks, no changes on anything. So for someone that doesn't want to go on the protocol side and doesn't want to be bidding on the protocol side and only wants to be sending bids on the off protocol side, again, I don't see what is the change.
Yeah, I guess my point was related just to Terrence's comments that whether builders having to be staked would be an issue. Obviously, if a builder doesn't have to be staked, then that would not be an issue. Assuming there is some off-protocol, bidding.
Well,
I would just maybe sorry. I would just
there's
also add
no.
that, yeah, sorry. I would just wanted to add that some of the I think points that we mentioned are not necessarily related about Titan itself. Obviously, Titan is a large builder, but there are also a number of other builders and potentially new builders coming into. And if you have, some builders who have just direct access, that would also not be ideal for competition.
Glenn?
So yeah, like I think I do see that like trustful payments or like off-protocol payments can be supported, and my expectation is that it's probably going to be like the dominant usage, and which is kind of okay, as in like there's not much disruption. It might also mean that we are having some complexity that's not going to be used, but maybe that's okay. But like this is all under the assumption that it's going to be very, very easy to have off-protocol payments. Like you don't need a fork. All the clients will have support for it. It's just out of the box, like just some configuration change, and you can just have the exact flow that you have right now. I think that kind of support will be needed if we're going to have trustless payments and minimize the disruption and also minimize like the arguments that we're going to need in this kind of calls. Like as long as we have that, I think it'll be. And I think there was some like I think like in the past like week or so, like in Discord, I think like Potos, you seem much more supportive. Well, you were always supportive probably, but like I think a lot of us were kind of misunderstanding your point around removing the net boost. That we thought it was removing off protocol payments, but not the case. So, but I think the question now then would be like, how much support will we have? Like how much out of the box support that's standardized around the clients will we have?
Notice.
The very first time that I pitched ePBS on ACD, Danny Ryan was still running the meeting, and I mentioned this, and Danny repeated it just to clarify that that was the situation, because everyone that was opposing ePBS back then, it was 2 years ago, was opposing it on the ground that it would be bypassed. And Danny made the point of saying this is not about forcing people to go the trustless route. This is about giving them the option. And I think it was very clear back then that this was the thing. It was not about forcing people using something. It was about giving them the option. That was always my way of thinking about this. And I think we will. We have to. All clients, we should specify it so that node operators that want to take trusted payments, they have to. And it's, I don't know, you've already been in the discussions, and I think it's kind of universally agreed that the easiest way to do this would be to get an off-protocol bid on the builder API, and that's it, and just have clients allowing by default those off-protocol bids to be counted on whitelisted builders that they trust. That's a very simple configuration that everyone should use. What I would oppose and adamantly oppose, and I would definitely not want to include this in Prism, is a way of removing the trustless payments route, because it's just a matter of safety. One of the biggest things that ePBS gives us is a way of having a per builder circuit breaker, for example. I would not want to lose that. I would not want to lose the ability of having the P2P layer bids winning the auction, so that we can have a fallback mechanism which is over P2P, even especially so whenever proposers can no longer propose themselves. So I would oppose, and I would adamantly oppose a way and a configuration that removes the trustless payments. I'm totally fine with defaulting to trusted payments. I am totally fine with allowing node operators to prefer them. I am against removing the trustless route.
So removing the trustless route, for example, are you thinking about the case where the proposer just selects himself as a builder and then does off-protocol sales, like completely?
No,
bypassing the full
removing
stop?
the trustless route would be, I don't take any bids unless it is from this builder that is going to be only off protocol. So that I don't like.
For example, like in the proposal that Terence had, like you'll have a configuration file that configures like this builder is trusted, you have a boost. But if you only have trusted in that list, wouldn't you be kind of bypassing the trustless payment
No, because
already?
the
Or
P2P
is that
stack
okay?
is always taken. Like you can, I would be very against validators being able to stop the P2P stack from happening. You can boost the non-P2P one, and you can boost it like very largely. That's fine. But the thing is that there should always be a fallback, in that if you don't get a bid from the trusted payment side, and for some reason you cannot propose, you should be able to take a bid from the P2P layer.
Yeah, in principle, I do agree, but like operationally, for example, some node operators, they might have no idea how to handle like these DL side payments, and they might have to go through like different accounting and all that. In that case, maybe they'll need some time to actually, disable the trustless payment until they get ready. I think one of the concerns around like that Lido was raising was that like they have to like upgrade their software to actually like do the accounting for the trustless payment route.
POTUS or Terrence, do you have a response to that? Okay.
I guess Lido can always boost the. I mean, there is an effective way of disabling the P2P stack in a sense by boosting very largely your whitelisted builders. The problem is what happens when those guys, you boost yourself as a local builder and you boost the whitelisted builders a lot. And then even if no builder is giving you a bid, you will still choose your local payload instead of the P2P stack payload.
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, my personal standpoint right now is that like if we kind of had a time machine to go back, I think it would have been better if we had like two different EIPs and two different discussions, but I do see your point that it's kind of already very tied together and hard to see like where we can actually separate. And as long as like we have very, very good support and you're already agreeing, so I think that's very nice that like we have very good out of the box support of off-protocol payments. I think a lot of the concerns that the community had will be mitigated. Wondering if like Lido, I think someone from Lido is here. Like if you guys had anything that you guys wanted to raise now. Is it okay to have trustless payment, but having like very good support of our protocol payments?
Greg?
Yeah, so from Lido side, the important thing that I think was discussed with POTUS is to, as he said before, it was the withdrawal part, so that the MEV rewards are not sent directly in the CL, but they are given in this fee recipient address on the execution layer via the withdrawal queue. So yeah, since this is now incorporated in the specs, this kind of avoids having to update our on-chain kind of infrastructure. So that's the big thing, and I think this was discussed with POTUS before I joined Lido and is already settled, so that's fine. Yeah, then I also talked in the All Core Devs last week. I do have the opinion that it could be two separate EIPs for reasons that I already said. Like no, I think it's quite different conceptual topics, like the scalability part of the pipelining and the proposed builder separation. So for me, it seems to me that it's kind of many sorts at once, but I think it all boils down to what discussed also in the chat and the claim of POTUS before. So the main thing that is not 100% clear, I think, to everyone is that this like staked builders is necessary either way. So what's the main point of POTUS that I think it was not clear to me? It's not 100% clear to me until now, but I think, yeah, it's okay. I was not definitely sure that this text builder is necessary for the pipelining part. So this was not clear to me. So, but yeah, so looking at the high level, it seems to me that those are kind of independent things. But, yeah, as I said, like, so it seems to me more normal to separate. But yeah, if there is no other solution, then for Lido, like, since we have these withdrawals set in the specification for Lido, yeah, that would be okay.
Thank you. Any response from POTUS or Lynn about that? POTUS?
Actually, yeah, so this whole discussion is kind of very, very unfortunate in a sense, because we had a system that was incredibly simple to transfer payments on the CL side. The system was the builder pays, its balance is decreased, and the balance of the proposer is increased. And yes, it needs to be churned. It will definitely would look like exactly like it is today, except that it won't hit the exit queue and it won't hit the deposit churn. Now, this was changed by the explicit request of Lido because they didn't want to change their contracts, and this would make them change the contracts anyways, but it would make their life easier. But had we known that Lido anyways would take only trusted payments, then I think we would have gone with the other system anyways, which is actually safer. Well, I don't know safer, but it is better from the UX perspective that it doesn't affect the churn. So now it's this very unfortunate situation in which we might actually want to go back to that system. The change doesn't seem to be too large. It's actually very minor as far as I can see. We now have these builder payments that are put in the state in the case that the payload is not available, and we are going to check for those on epoch transition. And then we put a withdrawal which is churned and is processed with process withdrawals later on. I think the only change that we need to do is to put, instead of a withdrawal, we need to put a transfer to be churned. It has to be churned because we don't want to make transfers fast. And we would put, instead of a withdrawal, a builder transfer on a slice, exactly as it is today. But instead of being processing process withdrawals, it would be processing process builder transfers, and it would take its own churn. I think it's a very minor change to the current spec. So and it's something that people might want to look into if we want to go that route, so that we don't affect actual withdrawals and deposits and exits. And we just go back to the drawing board on this, because it's useless to have a system that was requested by Lido, but that Lido would not use it.
Sorry, sorry, but I think it's there is some confusion here. I never said that Lido is not going to use it. So there's perhaps some confusion here. I never said that Lido is not going to use it. So Lido requested this in order to have the option to use it, of course, right? So perhaps there is here some misconception. But
so Lido will use in-protocol payments, would support this.
Yeah, I mean, we will be examining this. So it's not, Lido never decided to not use it. Yeah. So this is why the way receiving the payment is something important for Lido, right? If Lido didn't care about receiving a payment, then that wouldn't have been important for Lido, right? Wouldn't make sense, of course. So I guess there is some confusion here. So is it clear now, or is there any more question on that?
Not clear to me, because if you're going to use this, then you are going to need to change your contracts anyways. If you go the trusted payments mechanism, then there's no change on the contracts at all, as far as I can see, because it's exactly the same as you have today now.
Yeah, but also in the trustless way, the important for Lido was to receive the payments on the EL, like in this execution layer what we have, and not have a consensus layer balance.
Yeah, in the trustless side, right?
Exactly. So this is settled. So no, I think this should be clear, right?
Yeah, I think it's clear. I think the point here is that if Lido is to use trustless payment, that's a requirement, but they still haven't decided whether to use it. Like they need some more further investigation for that. That makes sense. Yeah, but I think many people are kind of asking the same question, so maybe even though we don't have much time, it's still worth going over. Like, why are staked builders required for pipelining? You mentioned that it's actually for protecting the builders.
Well, I don't know. Yeah. I don't have a specification, a full specification of how does it go with the proposer self-signing. And the original, yes. So that's it. there's no full specification of how the proposer self-signs. It requires a bunch of backs and forths, and even to actually like broadcast the payload later, it requires another back and forth. Like the implementation is actually much more complicated too, because you see that the payload itself is again signed by the proposer. So there has to be a communication between the proposer and the builder when you're about to propose. And then there has to be another communication between the proposer and the builder when you're about to submit the payload. And
Isn't that what the relays do now? Like kind of like they sit in the middle.
Yeah, and Francesco is saying something that the builder can sign it, but it doesn't need to be staked. Yes, and then the problem with that, I think it's just a DOS, right? So I don't understand. We need to have a list of signatures. Yeah, that's right. It's not even clear what the signature. Well, the signature is useful for validation. We're propagating an object that we need to know from whom is coming. On the P2P side, otherwise you can be DOSed. So that's why the signature comes in the payload. And now the question is whether or not we can have signatures from people that are not in the beacon state. I do not know about the safety of that. That's why we have them. Now, of course, since we're saying that most of the payments will be trusted anyways, and there's no reason for someone that is going to be providing trusted bids. There's no reason to be staked for 32 ETH because anyways, most of your bids are going to be on the trusted side. So in principle, we could have builders being staked by very little so that it's just a deterrent from DOSing the beacon state. But that will require more changes on the protocol side. So that it's absolutely fine to have builders that are staked for very little, but I think that will require changes on the beacon state that are worse. For example, we could make them not validators and being staked very little, and that's easy. But if we make them validators and being staked very little, so that their money is not sitting then just losing money, then it becomes much harder. So I don't know. I mean, all of these are design decisions. It's just that it's a specification that no one did. And going back on the draw board now to like go back and specify all of this again, well, yeah, that is a big change.
Yeah, I guess like the in-protocol part, imagine wouldn't be too much of a change, but like have support for the map boost but maybe there's more, I'm not sure. But yeah, I do agree that it is like we don't have that much time.
Yeah, we don't really have that much time left in the call. 5 more minutes. I don't think that we should make a decision on this today. I think we should save the decision making for next week's ACDC call, which Stokes will be leading. Okay, let's continue talking about that then. For the final agenda item, Mehdi, are you available to talk about the attestation container comment that you made?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I basically was working on the gossip rules for GLOAS, and when I reached the attestation stage, I noticed that the attestation data index is now used for to signal the payload status, and we used to force it and hard code it to 0 in Electra, but it's not the case now. So yeah, I was a little bit worried about that because in my understanding that would require a new container to basically be able to differentiate the attestations and interpret the index field accordingly. So yeah, and in my understanding too, that would have some side effects basically on the attestation data creation API. Well, the gossip rules and the attestation data creation. So yeah, I wanted to raise this concern to have some feedback and see if other people have came across this issue, and yeah.
I'm sorry, I missed the issue. What is the issue, Mary? That we're using the index to like signal the payload?
Yeah, I mean that the index in Electra, we were sure that the index was set to 0, and we was, for example, in Teco implementation, we were using that to check if it's an Electra attestation, for example. But
Oh,
now
I
the
see. And now
yeah,
we're gonna have index different than
exactly.
0, and
Yeah, that's the issue. And there
I
was even thinking about the fork boundaries when we move from Electra to GLOAS. We could still have will be still receiving some Electra, a mix of Electra and the GLOAS attestations, and we need to differentiate them. So yeah, that could be tricky, and I'm a little bit worried about that. So yeah.
Yeah, we'll need to look at this too. I think we don't distinguish because of this,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not sure.
I mean, we could add some workarounds and try to do some hacky workarounds, but in my opinion, it would be really better if we add a spec change to that. Otherwise, we already introduced a lot of workarounds with the EIP attestation, and I really don't want to see some other hacky ways to handle that for the next fork. So yeah.
What would the spec change look like exactly? Would there just be a new container?
Yeah, I think it would be a new container, even though it would be exactly the same data structure. The only difference would be like a conceptual difference, basically how we interpret the index field. Because we in Electra we set explicitly in the spec that the index field would be set to 0, and yeah.
Yeah, we should consider how difficult this will be for other clients as well. Like Terrence said, that adding a new attestation container in Prism is a pain in the butt.
In Teco too, but
yeah, I understand your concern though. Let's discuss this more on Discord, and
yeah, sure.
maybe if you could make a PR just as like a proposal that we could discuss, that would be great.
Sure. Okay, sure. Let's do it like that.
Okay. We're pretty much at time. Is there anything anyone would like to discuss before we end the call? Okay. Thank you everyone for joining. I'll be sure to post a recap soon. See you all in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Justin.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.